Hello and welcome to Bud's RPG Review, where I give my thoughts on role-playing games, card games and board games. Today's review is Cult of RuneQuest, The Lightbringers for RuneQuest Glorantha by Chaosium. This series will be in 4 parts. Part 1 will cover the general mythology and genealogy of the Lightbringers and go into the king of the gods, Orlanth, as well as the healing goddess Chalana Arroy. Part 2 will cover the remaining 3 Lightbringers, Ermal, Isseries and Lancormai, and in part 3 I will go into some of the other related cults from Barntar to Humact. Part 4 will conclude the series, beginning with Lambril and finishing the book talking about Yinkin. Okay, first a bit of history. Many years in the making and finally released in 2023, Cult of RuneQuest The Lightbringers is the second book in a multi-part series that goes into the detail of 19 of the varied cults of Glorantha. It's available as a 172-page hardback book and PDF. It's worth pointing out that I have skipped the first book in the series and will instead be covering this last. I will explain more when this happens. To the cover. Here we have a glorious piece by Loic Musi showing the king of the gods Orlanth alongside the red goddess and Nysalor. A great start. To the inside. We're greeted with a wonderful piece of Orlanth and a now expected invocation. Those who would reveal the secrets of this book. May Humac sever you from life and death. May Marangor blast and wither your genitals. May Babistagor remove your limbs. And may Arachne Solara devour your soul and discharge it into the void. Charming as always. Moving past the contents, we get to the introduction. Here they talk about what is in the book. It is a supplement that describes 19 different cults from Glorantha. The Lightbringers, Orlanth, Chalana Arroy, Ermal, Isseries and Lancormai are described in detail, as well as other gods such as Humac, Stormbull and many others. We are told that the Lightbringers are mostly descended from Umath, the primal heir, and are generally gathered around the cult of Orlanth. The Lightbringers, as I have talked about many other videos on my channel, were responsible for the greatest quest of all in restoring the dead cosmos that resulted in the Great Compromise. The gods detailed here cover a wide range of spheres of influence for the likes of farmers, herders, scribes, merchants, soldiers and even kings. Though the likes of Analda and the Earth Goddesses hold great influence, it was decided that they would receive their own book. The book itself is for players and GMs alike and presents an overview of what is loosely termed the Lightbringer Pantheon, with answers to important questions related to each religion such as why am I here, where do we come from and the like, and points out that not every deity here has a cult and that there are many important deities that receive no worship, possibly through being too distant or even abstract for humans to reach or comprehend. It makes the point that this book deals with myth, and as such this goes hand in hand with death, sex, gender, role, societal norms and the like, and stresses that they are simply the creations of the authors. It also makes the point that the names of the gods are the ones made popular in the God-learning monomyth, and they could be called different things by different groups, but for the most part, the sun god will be called Yelm and the storm god Orlanth, etc. The mythos of the religions is that which had been recorded between the gods and their worshippers, and the primal actions of the gods decide where their source of power sits, and as such when worshippers imitate those deeds, they assist in the divine conquests. Those acts that happened in God time, when they had the freedom to choose, determines their power base. The myths are what give the gods their power and where worshippers gain divine aid, as well as acting as guideposts for hero questing. It also makes the point that this book does not attempt to show everything that every deity has done, just the deeds and actions of cosmic significance. And then it talks about the art. Chaosium have done the absolute right thing here in giving the art the care and attention it deserves, with some being of how mortals see gods and other pieces being the likes of what you would see on the wall of a temple, with the following page being a prime example. Okay, so let's get to the gods of Glorantha. We're greeted with a full page entitled Songs of the Storm Voice, which as you might expect is about Orlanth in his many forms, and then we shift to the gods of the Lightbringers. It informs us that Orlanth is the head of the pantheon known as the Lightbringers, which not only includes those gods that perform the Lightbringer quest, but also the likes of Stormbull and Analda, and details all of them here. The Lightbringers believe that the world sprang from silence, where the egg of life bore Glorantha, the mother of the world. Glorantha birthed the first race, the gods, and they were of 3 types, the Council of Pairs, the elemental deities and the elder gods. These are not preserved in time and are long forgotten, though they are the ancestors of the cosmos. The gods planted fertile parts of themselves into the matter of the world, and from this sprang people, plants and animals. The gods wanted these to be their slaves, however, thanks to Orlanth, freedom lies with the individual. At one time nobody could die and the world was a place of unchanging slavery. Humac and Orlanth brought death into the world, and the concept that without death, life would never be truly lived. Death, they are told, is nothing to be scared of. After death you will have your moment to boast of your deeds face to face with Orlanth and take your place at his table, and after a while will return to the world to be among the living. They stress that the only meaning life truly has is to live facing your enemies and carving a place in the world in honour, loving your family and kin. No more can be expected. The Lightbringers also believe that the storm gods taught mortals the secrets of magic, and that only the power of the divine can be gifted by the gods themselves, though lesser magic can be learned from spirits. It then goes on to discuss what they think of the other gods. The earth goddesses are friends and lovers who heal and make the land fertile. They are to be protected and revered. The sky gods, ruled by Emperor Yelm, have always had a tumultuous relationship with the storm gods, and though Orlanth and Yelm have made peace, their followers have yet to learn this humility. The sea gods are regarded as terrifying, malignant entities, the birthers of sea monsters and colossal kraken, though the magic of the storm gods keeps them in check. The darkness gods, they believe, prey on the helpless and must always be watched and prepared for, lest the monsters of darkness return. Then we come to the Lunars. The Lightbringers believe that the red goddess is an attempt at birthing chaos into the world, and that the best she can give is the promise of stagnation and emptiness, the worst being returning it to chaos. They believe that the spirit world is as abundant and as full of life as the mundane, with the same variants of types that are bad and good. The Lightbringers understand that priests deal with the spirits that serve the gods and that shamans deal with the rest. Chaos, as you may imagine, is anathema to the Lightbringers. They believe that their enemies let chaos into the world and that it must be hunted down and scoured wherever possible to prevent a second greater darkness. With regards to humanists, they see them as wasting their time and energy, and their pursuit of sorcery only makes them useful when they are too old to make use of it. They argue that their way is the best. They can have powerful magic now while they can enjoy it. Underneath here it shows the spread of the religion of the Lightbringers from Dragon Pass, and after this it goes on to name the gods of storm over the next 5 pages. And then it talks about the 7 Lightbringers. Now, I'm not going to detail the Lightbringers quest, as I've actually done a lore video that explains the events of it. I'll link it below. We then come to a point of interest, the Lightbringer summons. Here it states that any initiate or rune master of one of the 7 cults can summon and subsequently receive assistance from another Lightbringer cultist. It is in the form of a poem and can only be activated when the summoner has seen or experienced a threat from chaos. False summons result in them being attacked by the spirit of retribution of their cult and lose all power and benefits from their god. Next to this is a fantastic piece of art that details and labels some of the Lightbringers, and then we move on to their genealogy, beginning with Gata and Ether, then Umath, and then flowing down to the major deities like Orlanth, Humac and Stormbull, and further to the lesser gods such as Barntar and Adalia, and then from this we move on to the king of the gods, Orlanth. Being referred to as the king of the gods, Orlanth is the storm god, and ruler of the universe, god of heroes and leader of the Lightbringers. He's married to Enalda, the earth goddess, and friendly with other Lightbringers, and has kin and companions amongst Stormbull, Humac, Mastercos, Hela and the like. Interestingly, the heads of other pantheons acknowledge his supremacy and show tribute. We're given Orlanth's history stemming from before time, through challenging then subsequently slaying Yelm, the Lightbringer's quest, being acknowledged as a Storm King and taking Umath's throne, defeating Arokka the Blue Dragon using the Sack of the Four Winds, and the various trials he faced, his seeking of Daliath's Well of Wisdom, fighting Megasta, the slaying of the powerful dragon Shahazakeel, the mover of the heavens and the primal cosmic dragon, by cutting it into pieces, and it also discusses his fondness of Earth and his love, the Earth Mother Enalda, from which other gods sprang. It also discusses his female form, that of Vinga. Since time began, after the Lightbringer's quest, it talks about Orlanth's involvement in the Thaylen Council, the reignition of the rivalry between him and Yelm, and Orlanth's priest Lochamadon being involved in the birthing of the perfect god within time, known initially as Osentalka, then Nysalor, and later as Gabaji. It also talks about the hero quest of Harmast Barefoot, returning with Arkat and liberating Dragon Pass from Gabaji. We then have a magnificent piece of art showing Orlanth in all of his glory. It then goes into the Second Age and the growing power of the Wind Lords being in control of many clans and being important leaders in the Arkat Wars, with the most famous leader of them at the time being Garangi Vak, who rode upon the sky bulls that were gained on a hero quest. He was also a friend and ally of the Only Old One. Draconic worship was on the rise in the region and led to the formation of the Empire of the Worm's Friends, with the best known Orlanthi in the Empire being Ingolf Dragonfriend, a Windlord who sat on the council and rode dragons. Tales of Orlanth slaying a true dragon were abound, and a hero rose from the west known as Alachering Dragonbreaker, who confronted and beat the Diamond Store Dragon in Agar. He seized much of Dragon Pass and established the cult of Orlanth Rex, rewarding them for their virtue with leadership over the cult. When the Empire of the Worm's Friends fell, Alachering found himself allied with dragons as trolls sacked Dragon Pass and the invincible Golden Horde gathered. The clans and tribes that entered Dragon Pass were wiped out by dragons in the Dragonkill War of 1120. In 1492, the Kingdom of Sartar was founded and had strong links with the Orlanthi. Sartar embraced the cult of Orlanth Rex, and the kingdom was maintained against lunar opposition for hundreds of years. The Third Age brought about the arrival of the Red Goddess, and her worship spread quickly and she fought against Orlanth for the Middle Air. Her worshippers conquered and converted those who worshipped Orlanth over the years, and even Dragon Pass fell to the invaders. In 1621, lunar sorcerers tried to bind Orlanth to the underworld, though Orlanth proved mightier and returned to defeat her armies in Dragon Pass. Sartar was liberated in 1625, and many of the occupied lunar provinces are in open revolt against the Lunar Empire, with many of Orlanth's powerful worshippers going on dangerous hero quests to find powers and relics to use to defeat the Red Goddess. Orlanth lives in the Middle Air, and can be found atop the cosmic mountain of Cerro Fin. From this place his worshippers can visit the Golden Age, Lesser Darkness or Greater Darkness, as well as move into the sky or the underworld. When cultists die, they are burned while the Song of Immolation is sung, and their ashes placed into urns or tombs. Orlanth guarantees that he will retrieve the souls of his worshippers from anywhere in the universe if they are treated in such a way where they can join him in his palace as guests to feast and drink until they return once again to the world as winds, storms or mortals. As one of the greater gods of Glorantha, Orlanth is the source of the air rune, with his other runes being movement and mastery, with the final rune donating his rulership of not only the gods, but also other elements and powers, and symbolises him as the god of heroes due to him completing the Lightbringers quest. Orlanth has many depictions due to his multitude of aspects. As Orlanth Adventurous, he is most often depicted as having 4 arms, with each wielding the 4 magical weapons, more on those later, as well as wearing armour and a ram's horn helm. When shown as Orlanth Thunderous, he is usually a naked, vigorous man armed with thunderbolts and carrying a dragon's head, as well as wearing a chieftain's arm and neck rings. In his Orlanth Rex aspect, he wields thunderbolts in his right hand and carries the green dragon's head with his left hand, usually also having the helm and neck rings. There is also a 3-headed aspect of him that signifies all of his aspects together. Whichever aspect he is seen in, he always has blue skin and orange hair, and usually 4 arms. His cult sees Orlanth as a foundation of cosmic order and the king of the gods, and that being part of it makes them a true citizen of the universe, unpredictable as that may be and full of challenges to overcome. After all, Orlanth fought his brothers, kinsmen, Chaos, Daliath, the god of wisdom, and even Yelm, the cosmic emperor. This study of unpredictability is a hallmark of the cult, as well as a devotion to righting wrongs and maintaining social good, the Lightbringer quest being the example of such. Orlanth was responsible for the Lesser Darkness, yet admitted his error and corrected it. He is seen as both a destroyer and a protector. The term Orlanthi goes beyond cult symbolism and refers to cultural, social and religious continuum. He is worshipped by both the rich and the poor, and mostly men, though there is a female incarnation worshipped by female warriors. Genetella is dominated by his worship. His god-time actions determine the parameters of his worship within time, though there seems to be an everlasting struggle between the Windlords, who are representatives of terrestrial interests, and Stormlords, who maintain themselves as spiritual leaders, though this has been largely mitigated since the Third Age arrival of the cult of Orlanth Rex. The cult has 6 virtues, those of courage, wisdom, generosity, justice, honour and piety, and anybody showing these is respected by Orlanth, with honour maybe being viewed as the most highly valued. Those who violate their oaths are subjected to the cult spirit of reprisal. Orlanth, as the leader of the Lightbringers, is associated closely with those cults, as well as being the king of the air gods. The association with the cult of Analda is so close that the 2 cults often function as one. Orlanth has always displayed a weakness for earth goddesses after all, and as such the cult has great respect for the earth. He hates chaos in all forms, and has a rivalry with Yelm and his sons, though this is considered professional, and members of both cults can be friends, with non-hostile rivalry that is openly displayed satisfying all honour. With regard to how the cult's organised, it's often dictated by local circumstances and the presence of the Orlanth Rex cult. For example, in Sartar the cult has been restructured to allow hereditary control of the cult to the cult of Orlanth Rex. The cult organisation is based on that of the presence of Orlanth Rex and the particular circumstances of the region, with the main three aspects being Orlanth Rex, Orlanth Adventurous and Orlanth Thunderous, and subcults around Vinga, the four magic weapons, the Thunder Brothers and the Spirits of Reprisal. The first cult it focuses on is that of Orlanth Adventurous. This is the most commonly worshipped and a cult of war, a reflection of the young storm god who finds glory in adventure, fighting and stealing cattle. It has a rivalry with that of Yelm, dislikes trolls and Cargalito cultists, and is a protector of the earth goddesses. Temples of Adventurous are usually led by a rune lord and are centred around a whiter. Initiates are usually brought in through trial and ordeal, and wind lords are the heads of it. That of Orlanth Thunderous is for those most concerned with the weather and storms, usually farmers and herders. This aspect is less of a war cult and more of a fertility one. They are usually led by storm voices and are strongly linked to local earth goddesses. That of Orlanth Rex is the aspect worshipped by leaders, be that kings, judges, thanes and the like. Sometimes membership is inherited via birthright, while in others it is via election and merit. It's a cult that maintains order through persuasion first and then force of arms second. This cult is not found everywhere, though other Orlanthi cults are subservient to it. Priests of Orlanth Rex are called kings, prince, first or similar. There is also a hero questing aspect of the god called Orlanth Lightbringer, and is one that celebrates Orlanth in his prime, one of broken virtues but a strong vision, with a reward greater than the suffering. All rituals to Orlanth must be performed in open and sometimes in a secret place, hilltops and mountains for example, and some temples have open courtyards for this purpose. Sacrifices are made upon an altar that is present there. These temples come in all sizes from minor shrines to major city temples. A clan may have a minor temple, whereas a tribe may have a major temple. Minor temples usually dedicated to one aspect of Orlanth and joined to the local and elder temple. Major temples may be 2 or 3 subcults, and a great temple may celebrate Orlanth in all of his forms. Chief priests of minor temples will usually be supported by the chief priestess of an elder who remain closely entwined. At a tribal level, they are led by a tribal king and all temple property is at his disposal. He is served by a chief priest, and this flows downward through the various positions. The most holy place to Orlanth is atop Cerofin in Dragon Pass. This is where he began the Lightbringer quest, as did Harmast Barefoot within time. Boldholm is a sacred valley where Orlanth gave his son Vingot temporal authority over mortal races. There's also the Old Wind Temple at the north edge of the Storm Mountains, where there is said to be a gateway to the Storm Palace that appears above the temple on holy days, and at the south end of the range is the Stormwalk Mountains, where Orlanth is known to stop occasionally. Beyond Dragon Pass, there is Thunder Mountain, which guards the entrance to Doristor. Orlanth's holy days are Wednesday, and each Wednesday of Movement Week is a high holy day, where worshippers celebrate Orlanth's birth. They also have 2 weeks of festivals to prepare worshippers for Wednesday of Sacred Time, where the longest and most holy of rituals are enacted. Orlanth Rex has another holy day on God's Day, Movement Week, Fire Season, and there is an additional floating holiday each season that is determined by the Storm Voices. Lay membership of the cult is quite open, and non-chaotic sentient beings that breathe air are welcome, including those of the Elder Races. They must have taken the choice to join the cult willingly. They are expected to aid the cult and act on the wishes of the priests. They may farm, hunt and live on lands owned by the tribe or clan and can be trained in regular skills and learn spirit magic at the usual cost. Initiates must follow the Adventurous or Thunderous cult, as well as having at least one parent who was an initiate. As with all cults, there are a number of skills or passions they must have listed here. They need to give 10% of their earnings to the temple, and they are bound by the usual cult likes and dislikes. As an initiate, they are entitled to a room and board at particular times at an Orlanth temple, and can also demand help from an heir rune cultist, those being Orlanth, Stormbull, Gagarth, Wild Hunter, Thunderbird and the like, though if a non-Orlanthi helps they can demand a price afterwards. There is a poem here that sets the standards. Initiates will be ransomed if possible, and wrongdoings to the cult demand compensation. They can also always tell when a storm is coming. They're expected to be honourable, devoted to Orlanth and loyal to their temple, and they need to hate chaos. It lists the skills and spirit magic available to initiates, as well as those rune spells available to Orlanth Adventurous and Orlanth Thunderous. Those who worship Orlanth Thunderous are known as God Talkers, and essentially part-time priests with few commitments beyond leading ceremonies of worship, though even though they only need to spend 10% of their time at the temple, they're required to give 50% of their income to it, and are not financially supported by their temple beyond room and board. Rune priests of Orlanth Thunderous are known as Storm Voices, and they have responsibility for their community and perform rites to bring rain and storms to the world. They have the usual rune priest benefits and are supported by the temple in return for teaching magic and blessing the community, as well as being given attractive land and herds. They also receive an allied spirit. They must own a cart to carry their ceremonial paraphernalia, and also need to eat an egg once a week as a sign of contempt for the elm, as well as never binding spirits into birds. They cannot own slaves and must free any they own. They can, as per the initiate, demand aid from Earth rune cultists, and they must answer legitimate Lightbringers summons or lose the benefits of their god. They can also learn the special rune spell, Blessed Thunderstone. Rune Lords of Orlanth Adventurous are known as Wind Lords. They live as the embodiment of the warrior, and their life goal is to perform deeds to honour Orlanth, actively seeking danger, taking up quarrels and defending their friends without fear. They are normally the leaders of Orlanthi communities. The list of requirements includes having a sword at 90%, and there are a number of skills and passions also required, as well as their sincerity for the role, which is checked via divination. They devote 90% of their time and income to the cult, though their temple provides them with pretty much everything they need, and they're also given land and herds. They must also train initiates for 1 season. There are a number of tracts that they need to perform when meeting a solar priest or lord, earth priestess, darkness or chaos cultist, and they must answer a legitimate Lightbringer's summons. They must also attempt to kill any chaos thing they encounter, though if it's too powerful they may retreat to get help. Also, they cannot own slaves and must free any sentient ones they own. There are huge benefits to being a Wind Lord, as they are leaders and powerful servants of Orlanth, blessed with an allied spirit, an iron weapon, and on rare occasions iron armour. They also check for divine intervention on a D10 rather than D100. Rune Masters have a number of enchantment spells that they can learn listed here. Chief Priests are the chieftains of a clan and head of the Orlanth cult for them. Their charisma and power must be 15 or greater, and they need to be a lay member of the Orlanth Rex cult as well as a lay member of another Lightbringer or Earth cult. They also need to have Orate or Sing at 90%. They are chosen by an assembly of adult clansmen and are invested with the office of Stormvoice or Stormlord without the prerequisites. They lead the clan with the support of the head priestess of Enalda and are responsible for taking care of the entire clan, leading seasonal sacrifices, heading the militia and the like. The subcult of Orlanth Rex is only found in Dragon Pass, Cathella, Peloria, Ralios, Mineria, and where it does exist there is also a statue of Orlanth Rex in the city or temple. Any Orlanthi initiate or member of a friendly cult can become a lay member, then he must give a gift to the Orlanth Rex initiate. They are expected to attend tribal assemblies. Those who hold leadership positions in Orlanthi society are expected to become lay members. Initiates of Orlanth Rex are called Thanes and wear special feathers in their helms. Priests of Orlanth Rex are known as tribal kings and gain the benefits of being a rune priest for the duration of servitude. They need to be at least an initiate of an Orlanth cult and a lay member of the Orlanth Rex cult. Most are Wind Lords or Storm Voices, in addition to being lay members of Enalda and other Lightbringers. There is no gender requirement, however, if they are from a matrilineal line, they are still called king. They are chosen from those candidates who are eligible and must succeed in a crown test, a reenactment of how Orlanth became king, whereby they must descend into the darkness and return with the light, though how this is interpreted may vary. For example, an Orlanth Adventurous candidate may raid trolls or brews and return with treasure, whereas an Orlanth Thunderous candidate may enter the dark earth and return with fertility magic. The greater the deed, the better the chance of being hailed as king. Strangely, during their absence, council is ruled by a priest of Ermal. Those invested into the role are expected to have the support of the Orlanthi Rex cult. They are required to rule wisely and with fairness, protecting those underneath them, and to uphold Orlanthi tribal traditions, including protecting associate and friendly cults. Justice must be pursued, chaos must be defeated. They must marry an Earth Priestess and be able to prove how worthy they are in their martial and magical prowess, and this is the case even if the king is female. They must answer legitimate Lightbringer calls for aid or face losing everything. The Prince of Sartar is the Orlanth Rex king for the entire kingdom, and as such Sartar is associated with the Orlanth Rex cult, with priests of Sartar being considered part of this dynasty. The subcult also has some special rune spells. There is Command Priest. This affects all Orlanth Rex rune masters that belong to the priest tribe and stops them from casting rune magic without consent from the priest. There is Command Worshippers. This ritual spell signals to all Orlanthi within range to finish their business and report to the summoner within 2 days. This spell is sacred and is used for emergencies and celebrations. And lastly, there is Detect Honour. This tells the caster whether someone is honourable in an Orlanthi sense. Oathbreakers always detect as dishonourable. The cult has an array of air spirits that they are able to command, such as air elementals, cloud spirits and entities such as the Thunder Brothers and Stormwalkers, as well as generations of heroes. Their spirits of reprisal are known as Enforcers. These come in many variants, with flint slingers, wind fists, brush fellows, and impests being the most common. There are a number of other subcults under Orlanth. There is Barntar, the son of Orlanth and Analda, who is a god of farming. More on him later. He provides his worshippers with the rune spell Plough. We have Dragarsi, the god of war dancers and epic poetry, who provides Orlanth's cult with the glamour spell and training in sing and dance at half price. There's the cult of the 4 magic weapons. These belong to Orlanth and are the lightning spear that was derived from Lightning Boy, sandals of darkness that were stolen from Kai Galitor, scarf of mist, a water spirit called Huraya, whom Orlanth once saved, and the shield of Aaron, which was owned by Analda, who gave it to Babista Gore, and eventually it came into the hands of Orlanth. The subcults devoted to these magic weapons is automatically joined in Dragon Pass when one joins the Orlanth Adventurous cult, whereas at the likes of Imprax or Talistar, the weapons have separate subcults. Orlanth has access or has had access to many other magical items, such as the Sword Death. It also discusses Sartar, a legendary hero brought priest to the Orlanthi of Dragon Pass. He married the Feathered Horse Queen and became king of Dragon Pass. He reached apotheosis in 1520 atop the flame of Sartar. He is worshipped as a subcult of Orlanth Rex, whose relatives must be descended from Sartar himself, though one can become a lay member. There is only one priest of the cult, the Prince of Sartar, and permanent initiates tend to the flame of Sartar. During lunar occupation, the flame is extinguished and can only be relit by members of the Sartar dynasty. Magic cast by initiates of the cult of Sartar will affect any citizen or city of Sartar and all travelling the roads. They have 2 unique spells: City Harmony, which counteracts demoralising fanaticism, and Support, which holds up sections of wall that are going to collapse. After this we have Vinga, the goddess of warrior women. It is believed that she is either a daughter of Orlanth or an aspect of him, and she wields Orlanth's magical weapons and manifests the power of Orlanth in a feminine form, and sometimes treated as a standalone goddess. Typically worshipped by women, members of the cult dye their hair red, and they are sometimes associated to Orlanth Thunderous, giving her worshippers the runespell Fearless. It also talks about Vingot, a son of Orlanth, who is the first king of men who received the sword and helm from Orlanth to symbolise justice and kingship. He defeated the Skybear and married 2 daughters of Ezrola and their consort Tada, called the Summer Wife and the Winter Wife. Their children subsequently founded the Vingotling tribes. Vingot was slain during the Greater Darkness, but his body was immolated to free his spirit. He is the leader of the Thunder Brothers. Only descendants may be initiated into Vingot's cult. There is also Yorioth, the shepherd son of Orlanth and Analda, who is worshipped by young men and herders, who has the spells Detect Sheep and Command Sheep that is given to the cult of Orlanth Adventurous. It details Thunderbird, one of the 3 feathered rivals of Prax, who provides Orlanth with the Thunderbolt spell, and finally in this section we have the Thunder Brothers. These are the offspring of Orlanth. They are an immensely powerful group of storm gods numbering between 3 and 60, usually led by Vinga. They shake mountains, split the sky with lightning, and are armed with terrible swords. They provide the spell Summon Large Air Elemental. It then gives some information on well-known heroes of Orlanth. Alacoring Dragonbreaker, the slayer of Drang, the Diamond Storm Dragon, and founder of the cult of Orlanth Rex. He is legendary for seizing Dragon Pass and popularising the religions of Orlanth. We have Grangivak, a friend and ally of the Only Old One, the son of Organagar. He is known to have braved the Bull's Path on Stormwalk Mountain, returning with a Skybull as a steed. There is Hakrap Blowhard, a troll hero who has a popular cult in the Yelp Mountains. There is Harmast Barefoot, a hero from the end of the Dawn Age who began as an initiate of Barntar, who became the sworn enemy of Lochamaidon, a high priest of the storm gods in Doristor, who is the priest who most favoured the project that would birth Nysalor into the world. He attempted to block Harmast's hero quests. Harmast led an expedition westward and returned with Arkach Humak's son, seeing this as a victory but then being betrayed when Arkach joined the troll cults. We have Ingolf Dragonfriend, a native of Dragon Pass who became embroiled in the power of dragon magic, growing from the empire of the Worm's Friends. Having survived Drang the Dragon being slain, he was slain by a Blue Moon assassin in 1042 ST, the time the Dragonute betrayed the Empire. His body was borne away by a dream dragon and taken to Dragon's Eyrie where it remains. And finally we have Sartar, the best known Orlanthi hero who never raised a weapon against another person. He brought peace and compromise to the tribes, as well as a number of non-humans, the Lord of the Dwarf Mine, the Ducks of the Upland Marsh and the Telmori Wolf people. His magic was said to turn smart men into chieftains and good men into loyal followers, while enemies were turned into pack beasts. He united the tribes of Dragon Pass and founded the capital in 1492, the mountain city of Boldholm, erecting the walls overnight. He married the Feathered Horse Queen in 1495, a ceremony that was presided over by the Inhuman King, who named him the King of Dragon Pass. He reached apotheosis in 1520 when his family, friends, priests and loyal followers sang the song of immolation surrounding Sartar with a great light that transformed him into a column of orange flame that burned without fuel. After this, we move on to associated cults. Obviously, there are the Lightbringers who all provide spells to Orlanth and can call on each other for help. Chalana Arroy provides Restore Health. Ermal provides Charisma. Fleshman, though not having a cult, provides Spirit Block. Isseries gifts Lock. Lanquomai gives Analyze Magic. Ernalda gives Healed Body to all subcults of Orlanth, and her priestesses teach Second Sight to Orlanth at half price. And Grain Goddess gives Blessed Crops to the Thunderous subcult. Engizi can be commanded by Storm Voices of Orlanth Thunderous to use the Flood spell. Hel of the Rain God teaches the Rain spell, and Inora, the Goddess of Mountain Snow and half-sister of Orlanth, gives the Snow spells to Thunderous initiates. Kerofin, the Mountain Goddess, who is the Mother of Orlanth, gives the Leap spell to the Adventurous cult, and No Lineage to the Thunderous and Rex subcults. Kolat, the Father of the Seven Winds, gives the Thunderous subcult the Bind Wind spell, and Mastercos, the God of Motion and Change, gives Guided Teleportation to the Thunderous subcult and Teleportation to the Adventurous subcult. Adila, the Sky Bear and another of Orlanth's sons, is worshipped by Orlanthi as a hunting god, and the Thunderous subcult gained the Bear's Strength spell. Orlanth's brother, Stormbull, gives Face Chaos to the Adventurous subcult, as well as teaching Dispel Magic to worship as a half price, and Valen, the God of Winter, gives the Snow spell to Adventurous initiates. Yinkin, the God of Shadowcat and half-brother of Orlanth, not only grants the spell Identify Scent to the Adventurous subcult, but allows Orlanthi Rune Masters to have Shadowcats as familiars and allies. And finally, Yig, the North Wind, and the patron of the Wolf Pirates, gives the spell Windwalking to Adventurous and Rex initiates. Next, we move on to the worship of Orlanth in other lands. Esrolia is the home of the Earth Goddesses, and despite best efforts, the Rex cult has never gained a foothold, perhaps due to it being a matriarchal society. Indeed, the most popular male god is Barntar, whereas Orlanth is mostly worshipped as the husband of Enalda. In Frenella, Orlanth is popular with many tribal confederations being overseen by the Rex subcult, though in some areas the invisible god is worshipped instead. Mineria is dominated by the Orlanth cult. In the Third Age, the Rex cult was eclipsed by the trader princes who controlled the overland trade routes. However, since the opening, these tribes have lost a great deal of influence. Peloria marks the place where the Red Goddess defeated Orlanth and is ruled by the Lunar Empire. The farmers here have retreated into worship of Barntar, Enalda and Adila. In the Western Highlands, Orlanth is openly worshipped and ruled by the Rex subcult. Prax sees the embodiment of Orlanth as a cult for those that wander and want to move beyond the rigid tribal norms. It is very important and accepted, but only truly dominant among Sartarites and the Polgiani tribe. Ralios is the stronghold of Orlanthi worship, being unified under the banner of Orlanth Rex, and the brave ascend to the top of the world, a massive mountain here after it was declared Orlanth's home by a henotheistic cult of sorcerers known as the Chariot of Lightning. The cult of the hero Gurundia provides Orlanth with a hailstone spell. In Umathella, more specifically Pamaltella, Orlanth Adventurous and Thunderous are worshipped under different names, and Rex is unknown to them. Finally, in Durastella, a small population of Orlanthi have settled on Coruscant Island. It gives us information for the GMs and players here, and then it moves on to other notes. First up is the celestial body, Orlanth's Ring. Said to be the celestial home of Orlanth, it's also referred to as the Sky Bear, and also the Broken Ring by the Darahapa. It consists of 10 orange stars and 1 green one, which is known as the Dragon's Head, and the whole thing is either circular or spiral-shaped. It has a unique trajectory, appearing just before midnight on Wednesday at a star called Stormgate, and then they take around an hour to all appear. They travel upward for 7 days and eventually vanish into the pole star, reappearing after another 7 days at Stormgate. Records show that at the dawn this constellation had 11 stars, with 2 disappearing at the sunstop, possibly due to the appearance of Nysalor and Kabaji, and reappearing in 450 ST, coincidentally the year Nysalor and Kabaji were slain by Arkat. The last star to vanish was when the Red Goddess tore one out in 1245 at Castle Blue when she fought Orlanth. The Ring's activities become fairly unpredictable in recent times, and when lunar magicians bound Orlanth to the underworld in 1621, the Ring stopped appearing. The next year, 3 new stars appeared and followed the path that Orlanth's Ring took in the Sky Dome. In 1624, the full 11 stars of the Ring appeared again, rapidly climbing a third of the way up in a single afternoon. In Earth season of 1625, the Ring, absent the green star, appeared on the wrong day and spiralled around the sky in 6 hours, with several planets streaking from their positions and exploding against them, whereas other stars were merely darkened by their passing. People panicked across Glorantha, with many putting it down to the rapidly approaching hero wars. The next bit of information is that of kin strife. The sacredness of kin is important to Orlanth. He is a family god, the head of a family of immortals, and this makes kin important to him. The disintegration of this unit frays at the edges of the world and works inwards. Many think that Orlanth holds this sacred due to an elder, with matriarchal traditions being stronger for family attachments, and Orlanth has relied on this bond many times, holding vows as sacrosanct, and each time he fought his kin he broke them and grew weaker, with the last straw being when he drove Wild Hunter into the wilderness and his family fell apart, with an elder falling into a sleep from which she would not awake. As such, since the dawning, Orlanthi are responsible for each other's health, justice and safety. We then move to Stormwalkers. These are powerful Orlanthi who withdraw from temple life and join the Old Wind Temple. Inside the temple is the God's Realm, and as such Stormwalkers have begun thinking with the timeless logic of this place. They serve as an exclusive subcult of Thunderous and have a number of skills and spells that they are required to have. Members learn the spell Discorporate, Summon Large Elemental, and Flood, which is detailed here. With regard to weapon usage, Orlanth initiates specialise in the sword, though take pride in being able to use all weapons, which causes resentment from other cults that have limitations. And finally, all initiates of Orlanth can sense when a change in the weather is coming, with Windlords and Storm Voices being able to tell what kind of weather it will shift into a day earlier, though none of them can tell the source of the change. Okay, so moving on, we come to the goddess of compassion and healing, one of the Lightbringers and the most blessed amongst the gods, Chalana Arroy. Chalana Arroy is the daughter of Glorantha herself. She is noted for her kindness and purity and has helped many of the gods including Orlanth, Isseres, Yelm, Humac, Enelda and Hykem amongst others. She has a son, Aroyne, and during the Gods' War healed the wounded while learning the secrets of many of the gods, though she never took sides and remained neutral. When the Celestial Court was destroyed, she met with Aroyne at the centre of the world and found a dead god that they could not heal. At this point she decided that her passive nature no longer worked, despite the urging of her son to remain pure. They were met by Fleshman, who was terrified at the end of the world that he was witnessing. Aroyne tried to heal Fleshman, but Fleshman fled. Chalana Arroy chose to leave her son behind and find the wound in the cosmos, and subsequently became one of the Lightbringers, journeying to Hell to return Yelm to power. Aroyne stayed behind, being protected by all living things, and in return he helped all he could, though unfortunately he attracted the emptiness of chaos to him, and every time he tried to heal chaos his magical powers failed. He was wounded each time, and near the end lay near to death. Eventually he hid in the real world long enough to see the dawning and greet his mother, but his powers were forever changed. The Lightbringer's quest had changed Chalana Arroy. It was her decision to act that helped her, though she raised no weapons nor made any decisions. After the dawning she was again passive, though had great magic at her disposal. Aroyne had lost the power of magic, so focused on skills that aid healing instead. Chalana Arroy was there at the dawn, and her cult supported the Unity Council and God's Project and stayed with the Broken Council. She blessed Harmast barefoot and took part in his Lightbringer's quest. The Second Age saw the cult become widespread, welcomed by many empires and one manifestation of the time, the Sisters of Mercy, that are worshipped by all in Dragon Pass, who remain as remnants of the Empire of the Worm's friends. Chalana Arroy lives on the slopes of the Spike within her garden of healing plants, and from this place her worshippers can journey to the Golden Age, Lesser Darkness and Greater Darkness to attempt to heal the world. Those dedicated to her worship return to the world after death as healing spirits, and their graves often have healing plants planted on them. Chalana Arroy is depicted as a tall, lithe woman, dressed in white, arms open in a gesture of friendship, with her hands in the gestures for blessings or healing spells. With regard to the worship of Chalana Arroy, it is a very harsh, prohibitive one. The use of weapons is banned, as well as the use of magic that harms the world, throwing themselves at the mercy of others, and as such worship is generally restricted to devout individuals or advanced civilizations. Additionally, the healing of Chalana Arroy has been split into two types since the dawning, that of her magic and Aroyne's skills. She is worshipped by midwives, healers and chirurgeons, and is respected by those who don't. She will continue to exist until the time comes when there is nothing left to heal. Members of her cult heal all who seek her aid or that they find, and are deeply non-political. Despite this, all councils include them, though they rarely heed them. The cult shows no favouritism, healing those who require it. This includes fellow Lightbringers, though the individual is responsible for who and how they heal. The idea behind this is that if they treat everyone fairly, that may encourage others to do the same. This is flawed in many ways. For example, brews want nothing to do with healing, and some do not need or want it. Usually troll cults such as Zaraxaran or Chaos cults, and these show no favour towards healers. The cult is worshipped all over Genetella, and her biggest temple is the Grand Hospital in Notchet. Large cities tend to have minor temples, while some sit in the wilderness tended by lone priests. They tend to have a network of wandering healers who pass on new healing knowledge to all temples they visit. The temples serve as hospitals and charities that care for the ill or wounded. They always have clean water and are kept clean. Animal sacrifices are not made to Chalana Arroy. Instead, she accepts food, flowers, valuables and services. The temples are loosely organised, with each having a high priestess served by a group of healers. Beyond that, however, there is no formal organisation of note. Wandering healers report to various temples, but owe none of them loyalty, being left to follow their own path. Wild Day, or Fertility Week, is the holy day of the cult, with the High Holy Day being a week-long festival that runs throughout the second week of sacred time. This is to celebrate the return of the goddess and the Lightbringers from hell. Anyone with a genuine wish to join may become an initiate of the cult, though their sincerity is checked with divination. Creatures of chaos have been known to join, with the wild healer of the Rockwoods, who is a brew, joining the cult. Lay members work at the temples, assisting and learning skills from the temple or a healer that resides there. They must take an oath to never harm a living creature and have to become vegetarian. As such, they will be healed at the temple for free, and their family also gain this benefit. They are forbidden from learning any combat skill and must focus on those that are assistive, such as treat disease, first aid and plant lore. They can also learn healing and vigour, but are unable to learn damaging spells listed here. As an initiate, they are known as healers. Again, their sincerity is checked with divination, and they must take a sacred oath to never harm an intelligent creature, nor cause pain to a living thing needlessly. The only combat skill they are allowed to learn is dodge, and must give 50% of their income to a high healer of the goddess. Any foe incapacitated by a priestess of Chalana Arroy is placed under their protection, and they cannot allow them to be harmed, though disarming and capturing are fine. Chaotic foes, however, are exempt from this. Initiates are given food and board at any Chalana Arroy temple and receive free training in the healing arts. Anybody harming a healer of Chalana Arroy would be an outcast from their own cult, unless it is a chaos or darkness one, and other cults would likely seek retribution. Healers are always honoured guests and invited to all feasts and festivals, with Lightbringer cults setting aside a room for wandering healers. They are loved by the poor and destitute. Chalana Arroy has a favoured passion of love and discourages hate, and teaches a whole raft of skills that support healing, as well as teaching alchemy at half price. A number of non-healing spells can be learned, listed here, as well as the Preserve Herb spell that Aldrya gives. There's also a special spell called Sleep that cannot be taught to outsiders, as well as a fairly big list of combat-oriented spells that are forbidden. Sorcery is not taught at temples, however. Initiates can be free to learn it as long as the spells do not cause suffering or harm, and there are a number of rune spells that initiates can learn, such as Comfort Song, Cure All Disease, Cure Chaos Wound, Cure Poison, Harmony, Heal Body, Regrow Limb, Restore Health, Restore Mind, Summon Healing Spirit, and the incredibly powerful Resurrect. It details the Restore Mind and Summon Healing Spirit spells here. Also detailed is the Rune Priestess of Chalana Arroy, the High Healer. As you would expect, they have powerful magic, but the requirements to become one are high, as they must never have broken cult vows since becoming an initiate. They need to answer a legitimate Lightbringer summons or lose all rune points, and in the eyes of most they are inviolate. Harming a high healer would in normal society make someone an outcast, and they are loved by the rich and poor alike. There is a list of enchantments they can learn here. There are a number of subcults of Chalana Arroy, though they are often geographically limited. Chalana Arroy is the mistress of healing spirits and provides allied spirits to her high healers that take the form of harmless animals such as butterflies or doves. This is followed by a glorious full-page spread of Chalana Arroy, showing her runes of harmony and fertility. The spirit of reprisal for her cult is infection. Those who defy the pacifism and gentle ways of the cult will find themselves unable to resist infection. Whenever they are exposed to a disease, they will catch it and be unable to recover without the appropriate spell from the cult. This spell may or may not be withheld, depending on repentance being sincere. It then talks about Arroyne. Due to his selfless nature, he has friends from all over Glorantha, and all Chalana Arroy temples have a shrine to him. There is a subcult of healers dedicated to him that cure diseases and wounds without rune magic. He is of great importance among the Aldrya army, and he is their god of fertile water and one of their 3 great protectors. There is also a subcult dedicated to a famous heroine of Pameltella called Elamle. Primarily worshipped in Maslow, she teaches the spell Harmonium, detailed here. Among the Solar Pelorians, Chalana Arroy is known as Arissa, the White Lady, and she is associated with the Light Rune as well as Harmony and Fertility. This subcult teaches the spell Restore Vision. As mentioned previously, there is a sisterhood of 3 Chalana Arroy daughters, Mlamzi, Aronio, and Amprofesne, the Sisters of Mercy. This stems from the time of the Empire of the Worms Friends, and is commonly worshipped in Dragon Pass and Prax in a nunnery. They provide the Refined Medicine spell. Finally, there is an ancient nymph called Zotulla who became Arroyne's lover, and her subcult can be found in Ralios, Frenella and Western Peloria. She teaches the absorption spell. After this, we move on to associated cults. There's that Fleshman, one of the Lightbringers. Though he has no cult, he provides the Spirit Block spell. We have Isseries, whose merchants always give gifts of healing herbs to initiates of Chalana Arroy. He provides a variant of the Create Market spell called Create Neutral Ground, which does not cause damage but a sensation that warns the transgressor. Lancor Mai teaches initiates of Chalana Arroy reading and writing and alchemy, as well as making the Analyze magic spell available. Orlanth places all temples of Chalana Arroy under his protection, and healers can always count on Windlords for help. The spell Shield is provided by Orlanth. Alzraya, as previously mentioned, honours Aroin, and as such provide his mother with the Preserve Herb spell and accelerate growth. Iritha, the Mother of Herds, gives Chalana Arroy the Speak with Herdbeast spell, and Enalda, the Earth Mother, a goddess that has always been closely associated with Chalana Arroy, despite being more practical and less pure, provides the Bless Pregnancy spell. Stormbull, who was badly wounded by Wakboth, was healed by Chalana Arroy. As such, initiates and high healers can bring a Stormbull worshipper out of their berserker rage, and finally Yelm, of whose Imperial Course Chalana Arroy was part of, gives the spell Fight Disease, and every ruling Yelm noble is required to keep a Chalana Arroy healer in their entourage. We then move on to miscellaneous notes. It covers the often spiky question as to payment for services. Healers will never ask for payment, though it is a long-held custom that if an adventurer is saved by a healer, then they will give the healer's temple, or one they're affiliated with, an appropriate gift or percentage of their income for the next year. This is dependent on their circumstances. For example, a king may fund a hospital being built, while a farmer may give half a year's milk from his cows. This is enforceable by the gods, and the greater the gift, the more honoured the giver in the eyes of the healer. Patients who are grudging or mean will be placed low on the list of priorities next time they need help. Non-threatening injuries or maladies are treated for free or a much smaller contribution. When their services are required outside the temple, food, board and safety are assumed to be provided by the requester. With regard to adventuring, healers do not accompany parties, however, they do go on rescue missions and aid friends against chaos. They will always walk in the middle of a party with their distinctive garb on to show who they are. Befuddle and sleep are never used against non-aggressors, though those affected then come under the protection of the healer. That is, unless they attack the party or healer. The reward for their services is the pick of any loot that would aid their work. Healers value all life equally, though from a more practical viewpoint, plants are eaten and animals can be killed to save a sentient being or a more valuable one, as well as being killed for medicinal ingredients, so this should be done mercifully. Killing a sentient being is unacceptable. They wear simple clothing, which is a white blouse and drape wrapped around the waist over the right shoulder. High healers have a green band to differentiate them and a brown one for Arroyan healers. Initiates wear no sash, and lay members wear white sashes over any clothing. Those who worship Arroy do not wear robes or skirts, choosing to go bare-legged or with trousers. Chalana Arroy worshippers will often sweep the ground of insects and small animals so they don't accidentally stand on them. Indeed, in Notchet there is an army of orphans that keep the great hospitals swept and clear. This has become a point of consternation with a venerable healer of Arroyn called Nambasa, who said he preferred simply to watch his step, preferring to leave them unmolested. There are rules here for healing plants, and this is followed by a section on healing spirits. These are numerous in temples of Chalana Arroy, and resident healers may receive them every holy day. They're not all from Chalana Arroy, however those sent by the goddess can be automatically bound. A spirit of health can purge a diseased spirit by engaging it in combat. Unfortunately, healing spirits are single use before returning to the spirit world, and as such healers charge extra for obtaining such spirits. Okay, that concludes part 1 in this series. Part 2 will cover the remaining Lightbringers, Ermal, Isseries and Lancor Mai.